What's up, my K-Bays? How are you guys doing today? Excuse my look. It's been a crazy week. But today we're going to be talking about John Haigh, the acid bath murderer man. Have you heard of this dude? Have ya? But anyways, as usual, viewer discretion advised, and this is for entertainment and educational purposes only, baby. So if I have to have my glasses on, sorry about the glare, but I'm blind as a bat, and yeah, I'm reading some of this, so. John Haigh was born in Stanford, Lincolnshire, and raised in the village of Outwood, Yorkshire. John Robert Haigh was his father. He was an engineer, and his mother was Emily Hudson. So Emily would also go by like Nee or Nay. It's pronounced either way, really, depending. But, yeah, so if you hear Nee or Nay or Emily, that's all her. So his parents were both members of the Plymouth Brethren, that is, like a Protestant, conservative sect, whatever that is. Haigh would later claim that he had, like, a lot of nightmares when he was little, and it was all, like, religious nightmares. Haigh was like super into classical music. He was into concerts. He was like really good at the piano that he taught himself to play at home. Like, he was a musical dude. He is into music. Haigh won a scholarship to Queen Elizabeth Grammar School, man. Then to Wakefield Cathedral, where he became a choir boy. More music, more music. After school, he was apprenticed at a firm of motor engineers. But after that, he took a job in insurance and advertising. But at age 21, he'd be dismissed because they said he'd been messing in the cash box. You gotta stay out of that cash box, boy. July 6th, 1934, Haigh would marry 23-year-old, Beatrice, who also went by Betty. So that marriage didn't last long, and while Haigh was in prison or jail or whatever for fraud, that would be the same year Betty, our lovely Betty, would give birth to their baby while he was in prison. It sucks, guys, it sucks. But she gave the baby up for adoption, and she left Haigh. Haigh's conservative family ostracized him from the onwards. In 1936, Haigh would move to London and become a chauffeur to William McSwan, who was the owner of amusement arcades. The wealthy owner, may I add. He also maintained McSwan's amusement machines. Haigh would start pretending to be a solicitor named William Cato Adamson, like for offices in all sorts of different towns. So he sold fraudulent stock shares from his deceased clients at below market rate. But he was caught by someone that noticed he misspelled Guildford on a letterhead. Haigh went to prison for 4 years for fraud, and he was released right after the start of the Second World War. He continued as a fraudster, and he was imprisoned numerous more times for this. Regretting that he left some of his victims alive to, snitch on him and stuff, he became really intrigued with a French murderer. Georges Alexandre Serret was the name of this French murderer. And he would kill people and dispose of them using sulfuric acid. Very sad, but Haigh would experiment with field mice and found out that it only took them 30 minutes to dissolve. 1943, Haigh would be let out of prison again, and he would become an accountant for an engineering firm. Soon after, by chance, he would bump into Mr. McSwan at Kensington Pub. McSwan introduced Haigh to his parents. Hey, this is Haigh. Hey. Their names were Donald and Amy. McSwan worked for them by collecting rents from their London properties, and I guess Haigh became envious of this, envious of his lifestyle. But on September 6th, 1944, McSwan just disappeared. Haigh later admitted that he lured McSwan into a basement and hit him over the head with like a lead pipe and put him in a 40-gallon drum and did the sulfuric acid thing to dissolve his body. 2 days later, finding that McSwan mostly dissolved, Haigh decided to take his remains and all that and dump it into a manhole. Haigh told McSwan's parents that he went into hiding in Scotland to avoid being, drafted into the military. You know what Mr. Haigh did too? He started living in McSwan's house, and collecting the rent for McSwan's parents, for their rental properties. This mother trucker had the nerve. But they became curious as to why their son wasn't returning because the war was coming to an end. Where is he? July 2nd, 1945, Haigh would lure his parents to this little road, saying that their son came back from Scotland. There, he would also kill McSwan's parents and dispose of them the same way he did McSwan. Haigh then stole McSwan's pension checks and sold his parents' property for around 8,000 pounds, which is like 10,000 US dollars. Then moved into the Onslow Court Hotel in Kensington. Haigh was a gambler, man. He was a gambler, and by 1947 he was running dry. But to solve his financial struggles, he would find another couple to kill and rob, because that solves problems, right? Dr. Archibald Henderson and his wife Rose. After acting interested in a house they were selling, Rose would invite Haigh over to play the piano for their guest at their housewarming party. While at the house, Haigh would steal Mr. Archibald's revolver, planning to use it at his next crime. So Haigh rented a small workshop at 2 Leopold Road. He moved acid and drums there from the Gloucester Road or whatever. Yeah, Gloucester, which is where he lured McSwan's parents and killed them and stuff. February 12th, 1948, Haigh would drive Archibald to his workshop to show him an invention. And when they arrived, Haigh would shoot Archibald Henderson in the head with his own revolver that he stole from him. What a D-bag. Then poor Rose, Haigh lured her to the workshop saying that her husband was sick, and when she got there, he shot her too with her husband's gun he stole from them. Man. After putting their bodies in drums and filling it with acid, he sold all their possessions for 8,000 pounds as well, which is 10,000 US dollars. The only thing he didn't sell was their car and their dog, which he kept. And he did this by forging their signatures. Olive Duran Deacon would be Haigh's last victim. No more for you, sonny. Olive was a 69-year-old wealthy widow of John Duran Deacon and a fellow resident of the Onslow Court Hotel. So by then, Haigh started calling himself an engineer, and Olive brought up to him her idea for artificial fingernails. February 18th, 1949, he would lure her to the workshop too to talk about her invention and shoot her in the back of the neck with the same revolver he stole from Mr. Archibald and shot him and his wife with. Stripped her of her valuables, including a Persian coat, and put her in her acid bath. 2 days later, Constance Lane, Rose's really good friend, would report her missing. Authorities soon discovered Haigh's background and they searched that workshop. So they found Mr. Haigh's little suitcase thingy, little briefcase, and inside was a dry cleaner's receipt for little lady that just got shot by Haigh, her Persian coat. And also papers referring to the Hendersons and McSwans. So there was no floor drain in the workshop Haigh was renting out this time, like I guess there was last time. So he disposed of the body that he had in the acid bath, the body of the last girl, in a rubble pile in the back of the workshop on the property. Dumb move, dude. Well, all of it's dumb, but dumb. Investigation of the area by pathologist Keith Simpson would reveal some stuff. 28 pounds of human fat, part of a human foot, human gallstones, and part of human, dentures would be discovered and would be later identified by Olive's dentist during the trial. Haigh asked Detective Inspector Albert Webb this. He asked him this during questioning too. Tell me frankly, what are the chances of anybody being released from Broadmoor? Which Broadmoor is a high-security psychiatric hospital. The detective dude was like, I can't talk about that kind of thing, what? And Haigh would reply with this. If I told you the truth, you probably wouldn't believe me, because it sounds too fantastic to believe. Then Haigh confessed to killing, Duran Deacon, the Hendersons, the McSwans, and apparently 3 other people. A young man named Max, a girl from Eastbourne, and a woman from Hammersmith. But there was nothing. The claims couldn't be sustained or whatever. Haigh's trial would be held at Lewes Assizes, is I think how it's pronounced. Haigh would plead insanity, saying that he drank the blood of his victims and he would have dreams that were consuming him by blood and stuff when he was a young boy. When he was involved in a car accident in March, I think 1944, he would say that a dream reoccurred or occurred to him, and this is what it says that it was. I saw before me a forest of crucifixes that gradually turned into trees. At first there appeared to be a dew or rain dripping from the branches, but as I approached I realized it was blood. The whole forest began to wilth, and the trees, dark and erect, to ooze blood. A man went from each tree catching the blood. When the cup was full, he approached me. Drink, he said, but I was unable to move. The Attorney General Shawcross, or something like that, led for prosecution and told the jury to reject his claim of insanity because he acted with forethought, as in he thought out his murders and stuff. David Maxwell would call many witnesses to attest to Haigh's mental state, including Henry, who claimed that Haigh had a paranoid constitution. So I'm going to read this little part here. Sir David Maxwell called many witnesses to attest Haigh's mental state, including Henry Yellowlees or something, who claimed Haigh had a paranoid constitution. And this is what he said. The absolute callous, cheerful, bland, and almost friendly indifference of the accused to the crimes which he freely admits having committed is unique in my experience. So Haigh mistakenly believed that if the murdered body wasn't found, that he wouldn't be convicted of his crimes. In just minutes, the jury would find him guilty. Mr. Justice Humphreys would sentence him to death. What Haigh did was all over the newspaper, even though him being guilty wasn't questioned. But one of these, reporters or whatever, put in the paper that he was a murderer before his trial was over. So he spent some time in prison too, because you can't call someone a murderer before the trial's over. August 10th, 1949, Haigh would drink him a brandy before being hung. So that's all I have for you about Mr. Acid Bath Murderer. This is horrible, it's sad, I feel horrible for the victims and their families and friends, and as always, I hope that they healed the best they could, and stay tuned for more stories because there's so many murder stories, which is heartbreaking but true. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed my storytelling and this story, this true crime murder story, click the like button. If you want to hear more and other stories like this, hit subscribe. If you want to be notified of when I post stories like this, hit the bell when you hit subscribe. Thank you guys. I love you so much.